Welcome to this month's Fire Chief's video message for the month of October 2016. This month I have Alice Leach from the Physical Management Division with me. Alice, welcome. Thank you for joining me, and tell me what brought you here today.
Thank you, Chief. I understand that this is the first appearance for a member of the Fiscal Management team, so I'm very honored to take the leap. This is really a good chance for us to provide information to the rest of the department, and so I appreciate the invitation.
So you came from the county police, and I welcome you having come downstairs, as we would say, from the third floor. What is physical management?
The Fiscal Management Department, when you look at the organizational chart, as you know, has a very small footprint. And that doesn't truly represent the broad reach that we do have across fire rescue. What we do impacts every part of our business, from the men and women on the front lines all the way up through our business partners, including the County Executive's Office. We are a very dynamic division. Just looking at the org chart, folks can see that we have three main functions. Our budget folks that deal with organizing and managing our $216 million budget, along with all of our grant funding. We have our procurement section that handles contracts, all of our accounts payable functions, and our P-card administration. And our EMS billing section, they are charged with managing about $18 million in revenue from insurance reimbursements regarding EMS transports.
Right. As I like to say, it's about making the money, getting the money, and then spending and reconciling. So making it is a couple of different ways. While we all laugh about, we print our own money and we use it, but getting the money via application of grants, management of grants, which is a very complex process, which is very beneficial but has its own requirements, as well as EMS billing towards making money or getting money, to the management of procurement, the ability to spend, and we'll go into that in a little bit, and then the distribution of those funds to different places. So it is a key group within the organization that, as we've talked about, a lot of people don't know about. They see the end results but don't know about. You talked about the 216 number. At the macro level, explain what is part of that 216 million.
So that encompasses our budget, which does not include construction projects, sometimes referred to as CIP.
Right.
Folks might know that label. Those construction projects would encompass things from major renovations for station houses, building new facilities, things of that nature, or large apparatus purchasing. Grant monies are also not included in that $216 million figure. Right. So out of that 216, 82% of that money is earmarked for personnel costs. So that leaves us really 18% to cover our operational.
About $40 million.
That's right.
Right.
And that money, as you talked about, needs to be managed wisely, because we have a very wide range of products and services to provide.
And that $40 million goes from EMS supplies to the lights to paper to apparatus to everything from uniforms to clothing to tools and appliances. All of the things that go into, on, or we use within the stations comes out of that pot of what's called operating dollars, or that $40 million. And that is a big chunk, but also a small chunk compared to what we do engage with. When you were talking about the procurement section as part of physical management and contracts, a lot of folks in the field use the end result of contracts but don't understand what's involved in getting a contract or what the requirements are. Now, we don't have time to go into the so much detail about the contracts, but give us a brief overview about what the procurement office and what county regulations outline for contracts.
So Fire rescue, we have our own procurement section, and we are basically functioning as the liaisons between fire rescue and coordinating our needs with county partners and the rules and regulations. So we really are the knowledge holders, and reach out first to our fire rescue folks to figure out what are our needs. We then function, your procurement staff functions as the how. How are we going to get those goods and services in the way that we need it and the time frame that's required? Overall, we are looking to increase the number of contracts for fire rescue. So the more knowledge that's out there about what is involved with bringing a contract on board, really the better. We work with within a very measured process. Time frames are set by the partnerships that we have with other county agencies. Our biggest partner being county procurement. We also work with risk management, the county attorney's office. A lot of documents and information are traded, are reviewed in a multi-step process. Probably most of our fire rescue folks are familiar with the solicitation process and the work that goes into getting us to that stage. What might not be as readily known, all of the steps after something is advertised, and what we do to get that contract in place. The most recent contract that was implemented was for the promotional exams. So that's something that really affects all of our men and women on the front lines.
Right. And we were talking, and you're going to talk about boundary as an example, and I will ask you to describe a little bit about what bridging a contract is, because a lot of folks may have heard about, bridging contracts, or that's a bridge contract, and why we bridge. But as an example, for my memory is probably over a decade now, we had utilized a bridged contract with Arlington County for the purchase of SCBA parts and equipment. So the Scott SCBA, our contract was actually a bridge or a copy of the contract with Arlington County Fire Department for MES supply and Scott Health and Safety. What is a bridged contract?
A bridge contract saves us in fire rescue in Montgomery County some steps. What we do is look at other jurisdictions that have gone through a contracting process that mirrors what we would have done in Montgomery County if we had started from scratch. Right. We work very closely with the county procurement office and our buyers to review established contracts with other municipalities to make sure they were advertised and awarded in a way that Montgomery County can support. So where they were competitively bid. There are lots of details and rules and regulations, but that's the general nature. We want to make sure that those contracts that are already in place meet our requirements for our county.
Right, and competitive nature, or the competitive bidding, is the key point, as you pointed out, that when you're looking to bridge a contract, you want to ensure that multiple vendors had the opportunity to submit for and be considered for that purchase. If it was competitively bid and the award was provided to a company for said reasons, then Montgomery County is frequently endorses bridging that contract or accepting that contract. Gives us a little bit of flexibility. Some of our apparatus procurements are bridged contracts, and we can do some changes on it, but we can't extensively change the scope of which the contract material was provided for. And it does benefit the customers, who are the people that are on the apparatus, the customers who are the residents who receive the service, and the taxpayers as the providers of the funding source. Within the county, we still have other programs that we do a lot with, and I'll throw out the MFD and the LSPRB. Can you give us a brief information about those two programs and why those are important to the county government and to the county citizens?
Yes, both of these programs are managed by our county procurement office. They are legislated by the county council, and they are certainly priorities of our county executive's office because they do greatly benefit Montgomery County as a whole. The county executive office felt that our procurement office needed to focus on these programs, so much to the point that there was a reorganization done, and the Office of Procurement is no longer under the umbrella of Department of General Services, so they're now an executive level standalone department where they're able to focus on these goals. The MFD program has a goal for
Stands for?
Thank you. It stands for the Minority, Female, and Disabled Owned Business Program. And the goal is for the county to increase our dollars spent to these types of businesses. A great fact that I was able to find from the fiscal year 15 budget is fire rescue. We were able to steer almost $1 million towards this program. We came in about $800,000. So that's a great accomplishment for our department.
And we have struggles being able to give some of our solicitations or being able to give our purchases to both of these programs participants because of the unique nature of our needs for supplies and equipment specific to our industry. You'll jump into LSPRB in a second, and that's something that we actually have more success in some natures because Ben Franklin, as we all know, is our office supplier. They are within one of these two programs, and they do get the business of the county because of that. So what is LSPRB?
That program stands for the Local Small Business Reserve Program, and that ensures that the county departments award approximately 20% of their procurements towards registered and certified businesses in the county. 95% of businesses in Montgomery County are classified as small business. So when we are able to keep those dollars within our own county, that goes back to you mentioning how we are benefiting the community as a whole by participating as much as we can in these programs.
And it's a very good situation that supports the community and the county and the businesses within, the residents and the folks within the county. And we understand the need to, and when possible, that's why procurement, both county and fire rescue, work to get towards LSPRB, and they have been very effective for fire rescue over the years. Anything else from the physical management that you wanted to hit?
I do want to say that following these programs, the MFD and the LSBRP, really helps to make fire rescue a conscientious consumer. By following these programs, we ensure that we are providing a living wage to workers who are associated with the vendors that we choose to do business with. Some vendors that folks might recognize, like you mentioned, are Benjamin for office supplies, Personalized Classics, who provides personalization, embroidery for our uniforms. Even our fuel purchasing comes from an MFD registered business in the county. There are certainly definitions that businesses fall under for these programs. They are capped at a certain number of employees and a certain amount of revenue flow, and that'll vary by industry.
And one of those local businesses that we do a lot with is Maryland Fire Equipment, as they do our cleaning and repair of our turnout gear. We've seen, or the folks at the stations have seen I would call it a change recently in how we go about applying NFPA 1971. That's the standard on the production and construction of turnout gear, firefighting gear. There's a point in that standard that says gear has a serviceable life of 10 years. There's a lot to be debated about where that comes from and how that 10-year mark is created. But the point is that as an organization, we had been adhering to, and we still are adhering to, the 10-year service life for our structural firefighting gear. We had actually only been applying that to the coats and pants, the firefighting ensemble, while that regulation 1971 applies to the helmet, the gloves, the boots, as well as the hoods, in addition to the coats and pants. When that was called to point about 3 months ago, question was, why aren't we applying it to the other parts of the ensemble? I said, well, we absolutely should. The standard is for the entire ensemble, and as we go about that, if your gloves are 11 years old, or your helmet is older than 10 years, or the boots, those need to be retired and new equipment put into service. So people have seen a very large uptick in that information in the field, and there was some confusion about that from the field personnel as to why that was the case. This impacts both issued equipment as well as personally owned equipment, because naturally we allow folks to wear or utilize their own personally owned helmet, meeting certain requirements of 1971, but the 10-year mark is still a service life indicator, and it's very important for people to understand that that's the benchmark. We're adhering to the 10 years. While we have gone through a lot of replacement equipment here in the last several months through property, logistics, and supply, and some folks have gotten the news that their 12 or 13-year-old helmet was no longer serviceable, I say I understand that impact on the helmet itself, but understand that that's intended for those personnel's own safety. Since the cycle of that standard is a 5-year cycle, one of the other ties to the 10-year is that the gear is predominantly never older than 2 editions of the standard old, and it's a part of keeping us in the latest and most protective equipment that we can in the structural firefighting ensemble. So wanted to touch on the 10-year mark as it relates to the PPE and how that has been a question that people in the stations have heard about, or I've heard from the stations oncoming. The other thing that we've been really moving along very progressively with is our EEO initiatives. We've just finished up in the month of September and October the command officer segment of that training, and our phase 2 training, which was station and group-led discussions, are now ongoing. Been ongoing for about 2 weeks now, and it'll take us a little bit of time to get through. Amazing, thanks to Dave Kennedy and Captain Stacy Jones, Stacy who's orchestrated the scheduling for the phase 2 activities, as well as to all the EO deputies and counselors as we go about to that. We must talk as an organization to be able to improve. We must be able to have the dialogue and to be able to sit down, understand that what was norm, what was reasonable in the past is no longer norm or reasonable. I've said it here before. I'm going to use the same statement here again. I respect everyone's personal rights and personal beliefs, but when we come to work or we come to our standby period of time, we have to follow the rights and beliefs and expectations of Mr. Leggett, county government, and the county council. We do that because we're on duty, because we're in station, because we're representing MCFRS at the time. The ability to have your own personal beliefs and your faith values is clearly something that's I cherish and want to let you continue with. But when we're at work on standby, we have to follow the values of county government, and that's a part of the discussion that we're ongoing through these phase 2s. One of the things, a three-word phrase that I think really hits home is always be respectful, always start with respect, always keep our discussions and dialogue relevant. If we're relevant to what we're doing or what actions we're undertaking, we will often not stray off the proper course. And then be professional. If we're relevant and professional and show respect as we're talking to our coworkers, talking to the public, talking to the other members of public safety, we're going to more frequently than not strive and be above the situation of going in the wrong path. So respect, relevancy, and professionalism is key and valued there. One of the things that has occurred since our last video, or my last video, was a really interesting video that came out of Steadwick Elementary School. And after we go through this video and everybody watches this, I'd really like for them to click on the link to The Lie. It's the name of the video created by a group of 4th grade students in Miss Moyer's social studies class at Steadwick Elementary School. This is 4th graders talking about and giving a very clear and direct message. 9 and 10-year-olds talking about, the values, but more specifically, it deals with the fact that hate and perception and understanding is learned. It's not something we're born with. It's not something that we come automatically receiving. It's something that's taught. And this short video by Miss Moyer's class, who are now 5th graders because this was taped last year, really sinks that in and shows the fact, and I like to hit a quote from Nelson Mandela, people must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes naturally to the human heart. And that's clearly a part of the fact that we learn what we come and set our baselines on, but because we come from different cultures and from different groups and backgrounds, we have to understand that what we may have learned is not what may be the accurate, or we're maybe getting a biased learning on situations. And this video, The Lie, as it's titled, is amazing. One of the things that happened 2 weeks ago now is both police and fire folks went to the school, as well as some other county government officials, and truly showed an outpouring of support to these students because of this very simple but very powerful message that they created. And we've partnered with them, and we're going to do some mentoring and leadership activities with those students in Miss Moyer's class, and more will come about that. And I want to ask folks within the department who want to take a role in that, the mentoring of these class at Steadwick and maybe another school, to reach out to Captain Kennedy and learn more about the activities of what our EEO group is doing as we push forward. So a lot going on there, and it's a continuous process. It's very much the role which we keep our understanding of that we as an organization have changed, our industry changes, our community changes. We have to change to reflect some of those changes. We can't be what we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So as we talk about the video, I wanted to pass on a difference in how we share the video. Up until now, for a little over a year, each of these video messages has been pushed by a link, and they were actually private YouTube videos, something that couldn't be searched in YouTube, and you had to have the link to get to it. Nothing that we've talked about here is sensitive to the nature that it's not public and should be kept from the public. So with this month's message, the folks from the IT department, IUC specifically, have now put all those links into an archived one-page location. They'll be available on quick links, and they'll be available because someone would say, well, I remember that was in a message from 2 months ago or something of that nature. And they were always hard to get to. So the video message are now going to be public documents, public videos via YouTube, but also on Quick Links himself, and available for others to share and see. Because again, I want folks to see that the part of this Chief's Monthly message is expanding and learning more about fire rescue, as each of my guests have allowed us to do, and you clearly have today. So want to say thank you, and thanks for bringing and outlining more about physical management than most of our folks knew about before.
There's always a lot to learn. My slice of exposure to fire rescue is only going to get larger as my tenure grows. And I'm always available to answer questions. I'm so glad that you brought up just the overall message of communication. I take that to heart in my job every day. And I feel very fortunate in the role that I do play in the department, working with contracts and accounts payable, that I do get to reach out to many folks in the department, and work on building those bridges. Right. So I appreciate that very much.
And it's a lot that goes into what is $40 million worth of expenses, or the getting the money, spending the money, and then reconciling the funds. So really appreciate that. We're getting ready to get into some really interesting times that are really good memories will be set. October 26th, we're going to do the ribbon cutting for Station 18. That's about 2 weeks away. That's a great new facility that's greatly welcomed and will be a significant transition from both Grandview or the Randolph Road Station. That'll be immediately followed on the 28th of October with the Academy's ribbon cutting ceremony. So a lot of changes in just the next 2 weeks reference structures. And it's very timely that my guest next month will be Jim Demopoulos, otherwise known as Greek, retired station commander from Station 18. Greek's got a big role in the ceremony activities and ceremony plannings for the station dedication. But he's going to come and join me next month and talk about some history of the fire department, and get back to elements of MCFRS or MC Fire Rescue that in the years gone past. So really looking forward to seeing Greek sitting here next month and talking about the history, because we have to learn from our history and be able to always remember as well as honor those that created the organizations and the services that we have today. So anything as a closing point?
I am just so thankful to be included in this process, and hearing that the links are going to be more widely available for these discussions that you're having. Just as a new employee, I can tell you how valuable that they are. I have learned a lot by reviewing the videos that have been produced, just in my short tenure here with the department. So I congratulate you on your success in helping to get more information out.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. And again, that's the goal here. And as I did with last month's message, I asked for more guests to join me. I got a couple of folks lined up, but always open to take a guest and put them on the wait list and have you join me here for a future taping. So October's here. Soon we'll be dealing with the transition to winter. We're going to have an uptick in fire activity because that's the sequence with alternative heat sources. So everybody needs to be careful and be cautious with that. And take care. Till next time, be safe. Thank you.